there, thank you for joining me for Yarn Bite. I'm Nora. Well, the epic battle of knitting versus crochet will never end, will it? Which will prevail? Well, I think they're both winners. They're both great, and like many of you out there, I'm bistitchal. I do both. I started out knitting, and then I progressed to crocheting. It's a different art form. It's a beautiful way to express yourself. I also do a little bit of looming, but today we're going to concentrate on what I like about knitting and what I like about crocheting. Well, let's start from the beginning. Here's a little tiny booty. How sweet is that? Look at this little tiny booty. A student that I attended graduate school back in the early 80s knitted this for me. It was a present. It was given to me at a shower hosted by professors at Oklahoma State University, the College of Home Economics, and I was just so thrilled. And I was determined that every mother should know how to knit. Well, lo and behold, if I don't find out, well, just recently, actually today when I pulled this out, it's crocheted. It isn't knitted. I didn't know the difference in 1982. My baby is 33 years old today, and ever since she outgrew these, I would put the little booties on our Christmas tree. And all I have now is just one little booty, but I'm sure if I dig around, I'll find it in a Christmas box. I'll find the other one. It's acrylic, so you know this is going to be around for her grandchildren. Isn't that just sweet? It has a single crochet in the bottom. Then it has a couple of rows of double crochet on the sides, and then the little cuff has some clusters, and then we have the little string that she knitted, little chain with the little pom-poms. How sweet is that? And it's still a little Christmas ornament, and I'm getting ready to wash it and ship it off to her so she can have it for her Christmas traditions since she recently got married. So little did I know I was in love with crochet at the beginning. Now, I did take knitting lessons while I was still pregnant. It was 1982. A woman in Stillwater, Oklahoma. She had studied knitting at Chicago, the Institute of Knitting. Who knew there was such a thing? So she was an expert, and I remember one of the students saying, I want to learn how to make socks. And I thought, how ludicrous is that? You can go to the store and get it for 99 cents. Back then they were probably 50 cents a pair. Why would anybody make socks? Well, I made her a sweater. Some of my first projects were pretty involved. And then, you know, as you get busy, I kind of drifted away from knitting and doing anything of the sort. Then I got interested again as my kids grew up and I had more time on my hands. But unfortunately, because I worked as a journalist, I started to develop carpal tunnel, and it was very painful to type. And I knew I was going to have to change careers. Also, it was very painful to knit. So I thought, you know, I'm going to have to learn how to crochet. I'm going to have to learn to do something different because there's going to come a point where I'm not going to be able to knit anymore. Well, we're going to advance to where I actually developed trigger finger. I had explained that a couple of episodes back. I had hand surgery, so now I can clasp again. And I guess I'll just keep slicing and dicing so I can keep on knitting. But I did learn how to crochet, I would say about in the 90s. Let me see. The late 90s, because I was, you know, figured I'm going to have to learn to do some kind of stitchery. And it was a sweet German woman who was trying to teach me how to hold a crochet hook like a pen, so you could dig. Well, I couldn't do that because it was really painful. That flexing motion of the wrist really hurt my wrist. So I hold it this way, and you get the whole arm motion. And the book that I was using at the time, the instruction book, I was self-taught, showed that this was the #1 method, and then I think picking was the secondary method. Now, what I do love about crocheting, we'll start with crocheting. It's kind of the folksy cousin of knitting. Very utilitarian. Here we have a little towel, and we have a little topper, and it made a little holder. And we have a button here. Here's a little space. that makes the little, and you can put it on the refrigerator handle, or you can put it on a cabinet handle. Very utilitarian. This is getting a little ratty, but you know what? Good old acrylic, it's going to last forever. It's going to last, it's going to wash, it's going to last longer than the towel itself. Oh, but it can also be very elegant. And this is a little soap holder. It was a gift at a gift exchange. And isn't that gorgeous? It's made with a delicate thread. It has a little ruffle at the top. Look at how gorgeous that is. It has a beautiful flower, a leaf. Oh, look how pretty that is. It's a beautiful color, kind of an antique beige. Has a little drawstring. And then inside it has a beautiful scented soap. Beautiful scented soap. So this is a lovely present. I haven't used the soap. It's just too pretty. It's just too pretty to take apart. So I keep it on my dresser. Isn't that lovely? So it can be very elegant. You can make beautiful shawls. I like the folksy look. I do like the homey look, the homespun look. This is a hat that my son made for me. It's so cute. It looks like a little nightcap. And he just taught himself how to crochet. He would ask me, how do you decrease? How do you increase? How do you work straight? He ran out of yarn, and of course he gravitated towards the fanciest yarns that I had in my stash. How did he know? My expensive yarns, my alpacas, my wools. Isn't that pretty? It's cute little, and he made this all on his own. He's a free-range crocheter. Free-range crocheter. That darling. This is the Mexican poncho that I'm working on for my son. I had to stop because I ran out of yarn. So far, from the shoulder to the point, it's 45 inches. I have about 4 more rows to go, and the fringe, and a lot of ends. Look at that. Lots and lots of ends to do it. The colors are gorgeous. He's absolutely going to love this. The gauge is a little bit bigger than the instructions. Jeannie DeClercq translated the instructions from Afrikaans to British crochet terms, and hers was made for women. Since I'm making this for a young man, I went ahead and used a size K hook, which was a little bigger. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly felt it so the holes won't be so big. I don't know if they're too big. I've never made a crochet garment. In the beginning, I stayed away from garments because I didn't want to go to all that trouble and then find out, oh boy, it's not going to fit. So I made blankets. I would make sweaters for children because they're not so difficult to size. For women, oh, we're lumpy in certain spots and small shoulder, and it was just too complicated. But now I'm a little braver. Now I'm going to talk. Oh, and another thing I want to tell you about crochet is the gorgeous granny squares. That one of the things that drew me to crocheting were the beautiful flowers, the beautiful colors, and I love playing with color. It's like crayons. It's like art that you create. Now I'm going to talk about knitting, and this is a beautiful little blanket, and this is the Tree of Life. It's the baby blanket. Over here we have leaves on the border, on the edge. We have flowers, and then we have trees. And you see that the pearl is creating a background. Because knitting is smoother, it's almost like creating a painting. It's so pretty. This is a canvas, and then on the back side where we have the knitting, you can see the knitting side, you can see the indentation for the trees. So you actually have a 3D effect. And you also get that from crochet. But this is so lifelike. It's just so gorgeous. This is so beautiful. And I was inspired to make this by some members of a knitting group who all made the large life afghan or blanket. Now this beautiful little hat, the cute little sheep, look at those sheep, how cute is that, with the little snowflakes, was made by a friend of mine, Rhea, from Rhode Island, and it's stranded artwork, also called Fair Isle. So look at how neat her work is. Isn't that lovely? And it's also warmer because you have double layers. That is so pretty. Now another hat that I made, this is one of the first hats I made. It was made out of a cashmere Debbie Bliss. I made my daughter a vest. She didn't like the way it fit. She didn't like the decreases under the arm. So I took it apart and ended up chopping it into tiny little pieces. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to make a hat and for me, but then it started to shrink and felt. So I added some brown acrylic because it lost all of its stretch. And I think it helped. I added the acrylic yarn with the cashmere, and so now I have a nice little ribbing again. Oh boy, do I love any kind of knit that kind of looks historical, kind of looks fairy tale. Who can resist a Little Red Riding Hood? Look at that. How cute is that? And this is made with thick yarn, thick washable wool. Love it, love it. We don't get very much cold weather in South Texas, but I love wearing this. How cute is that? You can button it all the way up, keep your neck warm. And if I don't look like Little Red Riding Hood, I don't know what would make me look like Little Red Riding Hood. So I love knitting. I love crocheting for two different reasons. The knitting's a little more, you might think of it as more elegant, more refined. But I'm suspecting that some of that new jumbo yarn, besides made for people who want quick projects, also kind of gives you that crochet look, that thick, lumpy 3D. Now this cute little thing here, how darling is this? This is made by a designer, and she's adorable. She does all kinds of character inspired. This is a Pokemon. This is a Snorlax. He's always asleep. And her Facebook is called Stitch Happy Nyan, and her name is Lee Wong, and she is from Liverpool, where we all know the Beatles first started making music. How cute is that? Now I had this commissioned. Can you imagine? It came all the way from Great Britain for my son, Joshua. He loves Pokemon. How cute is that? Well, kids, that's all I've got for you today. Every project has a story, and everything I showed you had lots and lots of stories. And it all started with this little booty that I thought was knitted. How funny is that? Well, thank you so much. Hope to hear from you. Take care.